Thanks, Will, again for taking some time to jump on. Super excited to chat with you today. So, Will Dukes of Sales Partners Florida, Dukes Family Farms. And I know you bring a really kind of unique perspective, not only to the world of entrepreneurship, but also kind of your mindset around sales and marketing, how they play together, the work you do with sales partners. And then, of course, your upbringing growing up on a farm definitely brings in a lot of that to the work that you do and a lot of analogies there that make sense in the marketing world. So, a little bit of background, Will and I started working together with Upperhand Creative about, I think it was a little over a year ago, something along that.
Somewhere, yeah, maybe about a year ago.
Yeah, cool. So just
Just
excited,
pre-COVID, I think.
definitely pre-COVID, yes. So just excited to hear about your success and kind of where things have gone for you. And so to get started, Will, just tell us a little bit about Sales Partners, what you do, who you serve, and what your offer is.
Sure. So we are basically a boutique consultancy. We do a little coaching as well, but we're focused primarily on sales and marketing strategy. And so the offer, or the main kind of pain that we help to alleviate for our folks, is they're just kind of stuck. They've gotten burned, wasting money on marketing that was ultimately ineffective in the past, and sometimes that's because the marketing was bad, or they just got sold a bill of goods and were none the wiser. But other times it's because they actually have decent marketing that maybe just needs a little tweak here and there, but they didn't have the right intake and sales and conversion processes on the back end. And so all the great marketing in the world isn't going to generate any return at all if you can't convert any of those folks to clients. So we work with our clients to really kind of educate them in thinking about marketing in terms of those holistic campaigns, and all the way from, all right, what is the product or service that you're selling? Who are you selling it to? When do you want to close it during the year? And building out that campaign all the way through when do they actually harvest, as we would say, into propagating that into upsales and resales, referrals back on the back end, and even fallow time at the end. Like how do you give that audience a chance to kind of rest from your messaging? So that's kind of the high level focus on where we try to spend our time, and what we try to do for our clients.
Yeah, love that. And I love that you guys take a really holistic approach to everything, right? Because if the marketing is working, but you can't, like you said, convert on the back end, then all those leads you're generating are just going to waste, which I know you're big on really taking advantage of everything that they're putting into it, making sure that it's converting for them. So I love that.
Yeah. I mean, and that, like you said, it came from kind of growing up on the farm. I mean, we had to work, on the short end for something 3 months, but it was usually more like 4 to 6 months. You're putting in all this work, from plowing the fields and planting the seeds and cultivating. And if you didn't get out there at the end of the season and go and harvest, then all that work is for naught. And
Mhm.
so it has a very clear analogy to what we're trying to do in sales and marketing as well.
Yeah, definitely. And such a great way to put that too, because there's so much patience that has to go into marketing, right? And being, as the business owner, the entrepreneur, being willing to stick out the plan for those seeds that are being planted. So, knowing that it's going to reap a harvest in the end. So absolutely. So you definitely have your hands full, and I'm sure your head's in a bunch of different areas, right? Depending on what kind of projects you're working on throughout the day. So definitely a lot for you that you're balancing. Before you started working with Upperhand Creative, what was your solution for your design? What did you try before? What were you using? What did that look like?
So it was a lot of DIY kind of stuff, and I feel like I have a decent eye for stuff. Like I know, and this is kind of what I bring to clients as well. Like I can tell them, it's like, all right, this is ugly and this is off brand. But when it comes to actually making something look good, um, there's a lot of technical things that are not outside of my capabilities, because I've gotten into Illustrator in the past, or some of these other things, and eventually made something work. But my God, how long did that take?
Sure.
And that was a big drain that I recognized. That one of the things too that kind of led us to this is, I spent a lot of my time working on my clients' accounts, And so the carpenter's house is never built, so to say.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the work that I was doing for me was getting, left to the end of the day or to the end of the week. And sometimes, just the creative muscles are exhausted by that time too. And so having the patience to get in and fiddle around with things and figure out, all right, this is the setting I need to do to twist this, or just getting in that process could be overwhelming. And so I knew if I had somebody that could put some of these things together, or really not even take the design necessarily, like that can help, but somebody that just knew the systems well enough that once we may have to put a ton of time into coming up with the design, but once we get kind of those templates down or those other things, now we have kind of this brand guide, or we have these pieces that are there, just churning out the day-to-day things that we needed for our own content, and occasionally even our clients' content as well, where we were supporting them. That would become a lot easier. And it was just kind of that regular, day-to-day type stuff that we needed the support on. And so that's what I didn't have, which is why, a lot of our stuff hasn't been as prolific as I would have liked it to be.
That's such a good point, right? We're so focused on our clients and on everything else going on around us, so there's so little time for us to really focus on our business and the strategy. And so I love that you say, you have the vision, and just really having somebody that can execute that a lot faster. It's not that we can't, but is that the best use of our time and resources. So
Right.
Once you started working with us, and I know you use it a lot for internally, right? For your branding, for sales partners, and even some other projects you have going on. So once you started working with the team, what did you see that kind of clicked right away? Or was there a small win that you were able to grab right away? And whether that was, saving you some time so you could put that elsewhere, or just seeing things come to life, what did that look like for you? What was the impact?
Yeah. So the main thing, and this is, I guess I'll say, and kind of broaden my horizon, or my thinking, was just that the idea that we could increase the quantity. So the thing that clicked, right? So coming in, I had some other personal, kind of like my side business interests. Being able to make small tweaks and to stuff, I think was a key thing, because that's something that I've run into in the past, is where you've got this person and you kind of give them an idea, and you might give them kind of a mood board or something like that, and you say, okay, this is what we're looking for. And then they come back, and if it's way off, you're already invested, but then you've got to come back and do revisions, and then they kind of have this expectation that, oh, we're only going to do 2 revisions, and it's like, well, you're still not delivering on what you want, and then everybody's upset. And so immediately, one of the key things is, I found that I could still be as particular as I needed to be. And there's always kind of the communication of that, but the team was very diligent in terms of following up, and they stay well ahead of me. And that's one of my goals for 2021, is keeping them more busy than I have, because I can give feedback, and where I've worked with other designers in the past, either for my own stuff or for clients, and it might be 3-5 days a week before you get any feedback. It's like, boom, next day something is up for you there, and to review, and I might be going in and review, and it's like, all right, I'll put this offside, and then all of a sudden I'm the one giving 3 or 5 days or a week or more before I get back. So I know I could, that's just been kind of this mental shift, is like, no, they're there, they're ready to go, and take full advantage of it.
That's a really good point too, on the speed of execution. I think that's one of the things that we strive for, is just being able to take that off your plate, so that you have, the capacity to kind of look at other things and put your priorities elsewhere. So when we started working together, how quickly were you able to kind of move things forward? Without the worry of having to find another designer, or find a solution, or having to go back and forth. Like, how did you see your speed of execution change?
Yeah. So, I mean, that really, that really is one of the most immediate things I think. And my full-time assistant kind of gets on me too, and that was one of the things that was beneficial, is allowing her to be able to get in, and she's managed a lot of those things too, and have been able to add some other projects, and so that volume has been impressive. And even though I know that there's more that they could do, and so we have to get organized on that. And as far as knowing that I didn't need another designer, the I don't know that I couldn't say that, like, oh, there was this aha moment, like, oh, click, like, oh, I don't need another designer, because I'd pretty much written off a lot of designers, and you know I tell my clients, look, I we deal with strategy, we deal with the high level, we'll make sure the pieces are in place, and we will help you find vendors to do certain things if you don't already have them. But that a graphic designer is one of those things that I usually kind of pray that they already have some
Mhm.
relationship with, that they want to be able to use and go forward with, or at least I did in the past, because that execution or the back and forth, I mean, it can just slow things down. And while always working with a team, like the thing that I would, and I've told other people, I say, look, I have access to designers, and people have this idea that they're going to be able to just like get on a phone call and talk about this thing, or like write out this description, and then all of a sudden somebody's going to come back and it's going to be perfect, right? It's going to be exactly what they wanted, how they envisioned it. And like that very, very, very rarely happens.
Right.
And when you do get that, it's usually like, all right, you're paying 30 grand for this logo or something like that. And so being able to shift and say, all right, no, we're not going to get perfection on the first time. We don't expect that, but just the reiterations that are able to come very quickly. It's like we may fail the first time or the first time around, but when you're failing forward and you're doing it at such a fast pace, you can still get to something really great instead of having to settle. And you can probably still do that as fast or faster than what you would have done before. So for me, it was knowing that it may take a little bit of effort, but it's still going to be a lot less than if I was trying to do it myself, and that I can keep the ball moving forward, and eventually get there for a lot less time and money than if I did it, or if I hired out somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Love that. So, Will, let's imagine that we're shooting an infomercial right now. So, what are kind of your biggest before and after claims that we could make? And it could be, personal, it could be professional. I think you kind of hit on a few of them already, but, anything from like tangible metrics before and after of like, we went from X amount of clients to X amount, or we see them stay longer, or, I went from very overwhelmed in what I was doing to clarity because, I had somebody to execute, whatever it may be.
So the first, I would say that the time I spend on designing a graphic, or something like that, I'd say I've probably reduced that by 90%.
Wow.
Is because I can come with just an idea, and yeah, and my wife could attest to it. Like there have been times that just like putting together a worksheet or something like that, and it would literally take me a full day. And now I'm kind of breaking that down to pieces, and now I can literally just an hour of my time of putting it down. That may be over the course of 5 or 10 communications, but it's just logging in, checking this. No, we need to tweak this, tweak this, tweak this, and I'm putting in an hour into it rather than
Right.
a full day or something like that.
That's awesome.
So that's the first one. The amount of content and the professional nature of stuff. Like we avoided doing a lot of content
Hmm.
before. or trying to like like Instagram, not really a fan.
Yeah.
But I know it's valuable. I know it's purposeful. And my assistant was able to like I was able to delegate that to her, and she was able to work to the team. And now there's all these cool graphics and everything else. And so that, and coupled with the amount of content that we've been able to put out using the pieces that Upperhand created for us, now they created kind of the templates, and now the assistant can go in and do the marketing. And so kind of those tools and pieces have been able uh, to increase the quantity and the quality of the post, and get kind of that consistent brand feel, and it's not just random all the time. I know that's more of a qualitative, or excuse me, a quantitative. No, I was right the first time. Qualitative, subjective kind of thing. But if I actually went back and looked at the amount of content that we were putting out on a consistent basis on platforms, that are graphical or visual in nature, it's probably, uh, yeah, I would say it's probably up by greater than 60%.
Wow.
Just because of the pieces that Upperhand's been able to create for us, has just allowed that much more rapid, consistent, branded production.
Yeah, yeah, that's huge. So obviously we knew each other prior to, but what was it that made you finally want to pull the trigger and work with us?
Well, there's I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm very big on in talking to folks about, and just looking at any kind of marketing process or vendor for their business, is what's the risk, right? And a lot of things are about mitigating risk, and that is one of those costs, right? So getting in and saying, all right, what's the cost of this? What's the risk involved, and how are you mitigating that, and what's the value you expect to get out of it? And so for me, I had there was no issue in believing that you were going to be able to deliver on something, and ultimately we could try it out, and after a month I didn't like it, it was still well worth the money. Like, it was not going to be an issue to get in and try that. I've spent far more on folks and had really poor results. So that wasn't really so much of a concern to get started. And the fact that it wasn't some long contract, like the monthly rate may be great, but for other folks, and they're like, oh, but it's a year contract, or it's a 2-year contract or something like that. And I'm like, well, then let's not talk about that monthly rate.
Right.
So with you all just being able to be month to month, and kind of like knowing that, all right, maybe I'm going on vacation for the next month, or I know we're going to get stuff up, knowing I can just kind of like put things on pause if I had to. I haven't ever had to and done that, but that's a key thing. But then ultimately it was coming down and doing that internal review, talking with my team and saying, all right, we're going to commit to this. There is going to be this expense involved with that. There's going to be a cost in our time to make this happen. I believe it's going to give us more than what we are paying for it, but are we prepared to actually use it? And that was a key thing. I would say people need to do it. Like, even though it's low risk, it's low cost, and it can be cool. And most people, I believe, can get the value out of it compared to, hiring just some freelance designer, or certainly a design company here stateside, with very, very few projects. Still, it's something that I see all the time, that people are like, oh yeah, I should totally do this. Here, let me go and buy this system or hire this person, and they're not ready to actually execute with it and hit the ground running. So that was one of the things that we had to do. Not that there's perfect, or perfection, or that, to the point we were getting kind of, analysis paralysis and that kind of thing. But we had a decent idea and a plan of some projects that we wanted to be done immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, all right, if we can get these projects done in this first month, and it's working out, like we'll have gotten well more than our than the expense we laid out in back in value. And it also just kind of allowed us to test and make sure it worked with our internal workflows and everything else. So
Yeah.
it's kind of that combination of everything: low cost, low risk, and were we ready to actually execute with it to get the value out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's key, is being prepared internally to be able to use, whatever it is that you're taking on in your business. Absolutely. So last question, Will, if, let's say someone's watching this and they're thinking about joining us or thinking about working with Upperhand Creative, what would you tell them?
So I would say just kind of what I was doing, like, really go in and evaluate what you're going to use these guys for. Give yourself time for the learning curve in doing that, and don't come back and think that you're just going to be able to bang out some sentences and get an immediate thing. There's going to be some of that learning curve until your team kind of gets to know you.
Mhm.
But still, the value is going to be much higher than what you're going to be paying for, especially if you have kind of that list of projects. And really, I mean, like, dig in, and maybe some of those things that you thought like, oh, I'll never really get to this. Well, now you've got it, and you've got a team. So I'd come up with a list of at least 10 projects that you would like them to work on. And if you can start with that in mind, it'll kind of give you an idea. Like, maybe you only get to 3 of them before you realize, like, all right, something's different. Who knows? But if you have kind of that foresight to know, then you can hit the ground running, and you're going to get a lot of the value out of it. And then it's just going to become so easy and to build things into your workflow, or to delegate them out, or maybe every Monday you're checking in, or once for 15 minutes in the morning if there's updates, something like that. But the results and the quality and the consistency that you can get out of it is going to be a lot more than you can get on your own.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your input today. And how can people find you if they want to get in touch with you? Sales Partners Florida.
Yeah, so our website is just that, salespartnersflorida.com. And then people want to connect with me, I'm most active on LinkedIn. And so that's just linkedin.com/in/Will Dukes. I pop up pretty readily if you just search that there. And then I think I'm on, I'm on Instagram as at one Will Dukes, ONE Will Dukes.
We'll link below to all that as well once this is posted live. So thanks again, Will. I appreciate it.
Very welcome.
Yeah, well, take care, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.
All right, man.
All righty. See ya.